going on, y'all? It's Hilario Hernandez here. This is the Corpus Christi Originals podcast. All right, we're live. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys on. I listened to your podcast recently. I think Kaylee reached out, or I reached out, and then I started. Yeah,
I saw y'all on Facebook. I think you we just kept kind of, or I guess it was Instagram. We kept like kind of bouncing around each other, and so then I finally just reached out. I'm like, hey, we love your merch. It looks great. Stumbled on your podcast. We got to, we were introduced to some cool new local businesses and local people that otherwise I hadn't heard of yet. So thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of, local support local and get that conversation going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's like we have to reach out as podcast hosts to help, get the word out for each other. That too.
Absolutely.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, because we're not Los Angeles, we're not Dallas, we're not Houston, we're not New York. It's just like one of those things where we have to just keep on, hey, within our circle, let's start this up and then let's boost up from there.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I gotta make a confession. I found you guys podcasts on through looking for Corpus Christi podcast probably like a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always listen for like 5 seconds and I turn it off because I think I'm not into it.
Yeah.
So what I heard was it was kind of like the story at first, right? And I was like, man, I'm really not into stories or whatever. So then I dropped it, And then when you reached out again, I actually gave it a second listen. I was like, holy crap, this is really cool. And I like the educational aspect of it, which you guys say you didn't mean it to be that way.
We didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got notified like, hey, dude, I love your podcast because it teaches like history. You're like, we teach history. Well, what?
Yeah, so our podcast is about cryptids. So if anybody who's tuning in is not familiar with what that is, our podcast is called 50 States of Terror, and we cover United States and its territories, cryptids and monsters. So a cryptid would be any kind of animal or creature that is not confirmed by science, so can neither be proven or disproven. So that's going to be like Bigfoot, Mothman, Loch Ness Monster. Like those are all cryptids.
Yeah, crazy.
And we start off our episode with a story or an introduction. For me, I thought it would be more interesting than just being like, hey, everybody, welcome to 50 States of Terror. Today, we're going to talk about this.
Right.
So when Anthony and I were brainstorming, I was like, well, what if we did it like, a different scenario that introduced it? So like we've got some episodes where the monster comes and approaches someone or someone hears something in the woods. And it's just more of an interesting way, I think, to kind of be like, oh, this is what we're talking about. Like, can you guess what it is by the end of the encounter? And then, we go into our banter and our case presentation, as we call it now.
Yeah. Now that I think go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. We were listening to a bunch of different podcasts too. And we didn't find that a lot of podcasts that did that started off that way. So we wanted to do something different so people can get like hooked on something, whether it was the story, whether it was, the way that we introed or how we presented it. It was one of those things to really like, let's just try it and see if it works. And we love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's like a little production thing too. It's pretty nice. I like it. Yeah.
And I cannot take any credit for that at all. That is all over here. All her. all
we started out like so I started off podcasting a little bit before Anthony and I really got started. Excuse me. And my sister has a podcast. She has the Housecraft Network, which covers things that are like witchy. And that's, while I enjoy witchy aesthetic, like I am not a witchy person, but she would bring me on for history episodes. They would be talking about folklore and things like that. And I have like a really unique upbringing that kind of presented that information to me, like at a younger age. So I was like, oh yeah, you guys are talking about werewolves? Cool. I'll talk about the Beast of Gévaudan, which is werewolf story from the French werewolf trials, which is kind of like the witchcraft trials that we had. But people were being burned for being werewolves, and like that was a big thing that was happening.
Wow.
So
amazing.
She started bringing me on for those, and I kind of got hooked on just learning to make content. I was recording in my closet with a blanket over my head with an Xbox controller headset, dude, and my audio was trash.
For real, dude. like locked in the closet. He was like, "Do not talk to me for 2 hours." I was like, "Okay, cool."
But we were also getting drunk at the same time. So like I would take my son's beanbag and put it in there with like a little laptop stand and have like a big sippy cup and a blanket over my head, like just drinking. And like I'm not built for the South Texas weather. I'm not from here. I'm not built for it. Like I would come out drenched, like drunk and sweating, and like I want to make another podcast. And I don't know why that was the reaction, but
Yeah.
Anthony and I started brainstorming. Like, could we do this? Could we do it?
Wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to do something that was more story driven because I'm trying to be a writer. I wrote a book and I have my own vocal page where I put all of my short stories that were listed into contest. I didn't win any, but like I truly want to be a published author, and I wanted to make a podcast that was story driven and expose my writing. And we just kind of collaborated, and then through trial and error and through a bunch of like, personal, I want to do this, you want to do that. Let's just like kind of mesh it together, and it became the show. And then through the evolution of the show, it is what it is now, which is far better than where we started.
Wow.
And but it's super fun to hear people talk about how we do the show and how it progressed from like these 30-minute just kind of us talking about it to an actual history, deep research, and interviews and things like that. That it was like, man, this might go somewhere, and we are going to enjoy this ride.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. Wow, that's so cool. So was it named 50 States of Terror when you started it?
Yeah,
Yep.
so we were brainstorming ideas and nothing really stuck. And I feel like the trend of my life is like nothing sticks. And I'm like, fine, F it. And I just come up with a name, and that's where it went. That's how we named our children. That's how we named our podcast. It was like, what are we going to name it? What are we going to name it? What about this? And then that's just the end of the discussion, and we don't go any further.
Because the book that I wrote is an adventure fantasy about cryptids, and we were talking about what we're going to talk about because we wanted to do like horror, we wanted to do monsters, ghosts, sightings, UFOs, and we're like, you know what? Let's just stick with this and then see where this goes, and we might branch off later on if we get a bunch of listeners or a following. We can see where we personally want to take this, and then create something much larger than what we have right now. Because I still do want to do a story-driven show. One of our favorite ones is Old Gods of Appalachia, which I just started, and it's very story-driven, but it also presents an insane amount of research and historical topics that they do through the story, and it's fascinating, and they have large following, and that's where personally I think we want to be at, is just a large collaboration of just stories and things that we can tell through the podcast.
Man, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. It's just like you guys got a goal. You have a goal where you want to go. So why podcasting? I mean, were y'all into podcasting? Well, I know Kaylee was in with her sister, so I guess that was your initial wanting to get into it.
Yeah, that was the initial bug that kind of gave us the bite. I feel like I've always been theatrical, I guess. I've always been that presenter. I'm pretty sure the only reason I'm in sales is because everybody kept telling me my entire life that I was going to be in sales. It was like, oh, you could sell a ketchup popsicle to a lady in white gloves. Like I just kept hearing that kind of thing growing up. Yeah. Or, I would hear like, oh, like you have a really soothing voice or this and that. Never in person. It's only my podcast voice, because this is not my always voice. But it just, when I would work for small companies, it was, oh, we need to set up our voicemail. Can you set up our voicemail? Can you record that? And I used to teach painting here in town at Painting with a Twist. So it's a great place for a date night if you ever decide to go. They're great. The girls are lovely. But that was always, I was presenting and I was in front of the group and I was doing that kind of thing. So I feel like this kind of feeds into my low-key narcissism. Like I get to make something and it's all about me and it's great. But it's also a different form of expression. Like I hadn't done audio editing before. We started this and we had someone who was editing our podcast for the first few episodes. And, you know, life happened. Like they had other stuff going on and they unfortunately were not able to continue helping us.
Yeah.
And they gave me some pointers. It wasn't like a high and dry situation, no hard feelings. But I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to learn how to do this. And so I took my brief musical background of doing musical theater and, you know, competitive choir and singing and everything when I was younger. I was like, okay, cool. So I can listen for this level and I know how to listen for this. Yeah. How do I make it balance and taking that artistry and applying it to audio? Wow. So it's been a lot of fun.
Let that be a true testament of like the dedication that Kaylee puts in the show. Like everything you hear from the show is nobody else. That's her doing the editing, the splicing, the production, and like damn near everything else. And all I do is sit around and tell dick jokes, and it's
you're so sweet. It really, we do, like, we always have like the hashtag for dad jokes because we love the low hanging fruit of the jokes that are there. But there have definitely been times where I'm like, are you not going to make a penis joke here? Like, do I need to do it? Or, you know? So our episode is definitely, we put an explicit filter on there because we do not get political. Like we don't really dive into that.
We try not to get political.
We try not to, but we do put an explicit filter on there because we love a well-placed F-bomb. Don't get me wrong. When it's appropriate, it's appropriate. If I tell the joke and your kid hears it, that's my fault. If they get the joke, that's your fault, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But
and we know through our research, you know, if we do the historical background of where these cryptids are from, and you go back to like the 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, we know that the America growing up was just a horrific place to be for a lot of people. So like we understand that, and we tell you up front, like this is not going to be easy for some people to listen about your history, but in order to understand where these monsters, cryptids, and legends come from, we have to first understand the location, and that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I love that. I think that's why I find it so fascinating, because I don't know about these places, you know. Excuse me. And even in like high school, I didn't care about history or nothing like that, you know. Right. And so it's like I'm learning it just now. I'm almost 40 years old, and and it's like fascinating to me, you know, for whatever reason. So that's pretty cool that y'all do that.
I think go ahead, Anthony.
No, please go ahead.
I think adding a fantasy element where, I mean, if we're gonna talk about monsters and everything, let's go ahead and be straightforward. I do not believe in anything at all. I don't. I am the true skeptic, and I'm the certified skeptic, and he is the true believer. Like, it's almost buddy cop scenario, like where it's like, you know, like the gruff, I'm like, that's not real. And he's like, no, Bigfoot is real. So we kind of have that balance. But when we start talking about some of the confirmed hoaxes that we talk about, and a really good example would be the Colorado rock bolt slider. So in our format, we pick one state and we cover one region or one monster. We picked that one for Colorado, and it was not an easy history to discuss. Wow. And there are some like really like bad feelings, you know, not in a poor pity me way, but like obviously I am Caucasian as they come, and I'm telling these stories about like, hey, look, did I do it? Absolutely not. But am I going to tell you about these horrible atrocities that happened to the indigenous people of the area? And was it done by white people? Yeah, like let's talk about the colonization of this area. Wow. Because they created a monster in this area specifically for the intention of stealing territory from the native tribes.
Right.
They did it, and they blamed the tribes for things. They ended up taking children from some of the leaders and were like, hey, we're going to get rid of the monster, or hey, we're going to do this, but you have to give us, you know, your children. There were just all of these different like land grab scenarios that are happening.
Right.
So I think when we're talking about history, history is not interesting to everybody. And I know that, I get that. But I think when we're like, hey, did you know there's this giant monster that lives on a mountain, and it hangs on by its tail, and then it swoops down and eats people. And you're like, excuse me, what? This is real history we're talking about? Yeah, that's what they told everybody in this mining town, in this logging town.
Yeah.
Here's the history as to why they did it. And so now you've got a little bit of fantasy that makes it interesting. And then you're almost, it's like that shock and awe. It's like, oh shit, okay, tell me more. Like, what did they do after that? Did the children ever get back to their parents?
Yeah.
And then I get to deliver the bad news that no, those children disappeared into the school system, that they were taken from their tribes and put into like the foster school system. And we try not to shy away from it, but we also really try and be respectful to those different cultures. We have a couple monsters that we will not talk about until we can get someone from that community that will come and talk to us, because we've had requests to talk about skinwalkers, and like, trigger warning if you already know what the word is going to be. It starts with a W. Wendigos have been something that people are like, oh, we're going to do Wendigos? I'm like, first of all, you're not even really supposed to say the word, is my understanding. So that's why the quick trigger warning.
Right.
But until I have someone that is of Algonquian descent or a similar tribe, like, we're not going to do it. That's not my story to tell. It's not Anthony's story to tell. Like, we want to be respectful of these cultures.
Right. And get it and get it right and get the information correct, because that's the big thing too, because the historical benefit not the historical significance of these monsters and these cryptids are deep rooted in a lot of indigenous cultures, and we want to get it correct because we don't want to get away from the importance it has on those peoples, and that's and to us that's very important, very important.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was listening to one of the recent ones, I think, and it had like Catholic history intertwined in it. That was kind of interesting. And like, there's a lot of Catholics around here in the South, near Mexico and stuff like that. So,
well, Anthony is Catholic.
I'm Catholic. I don't go deep dive to where I was rooted into when I was a kid, because we didn't really have a choice of what we were going to do or say during church, when our uprising. But when you start to research what the Catholic Church did a long time ago, and then the significance of it being tied into these stories, it's like, well, you're like, whoa, did this really happen? And you're like, yep, it sure as hell did.
Yeah, man, dang, it's like a hit, like, man, I didn't expect that, which sometimes we need that dose of truth, I think, and it's cool, and I like how y'all are like asking the audience too, if that's wrong, hey, correct us. We don't mind y'all correcting us. I think that's pretty
absolutely
cool.
Absolutely, yeah,
absolutely.
I try and make sure that I throw that out there, because I get so frustrated when I listen to podcasts and I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. But they just present it as fact. Like, if we can do all the research that we want, but our research is only as good as our resources. So while we do try and look for credible sources and citations, but when it comes down to it, sometimes there's really not a lot of reliable information about our content. Like, we just did, for Maine, we covered the Spectre moose, and it's just pretty much a ginormous moose that lives up there, and everybody was trying to hunt. It's not the scariest when it comes to like the visceral imagery of it, but moose are terrifying, so it's as scary as it needs to be. But we couldn't find a lot, and so I ended up getting some old documented scanned newspapers, but even those weren't really like scientific.
Right.
So it's like, look, I can only give you secondhand information, but this is where I found it. But if you know better than me, and if you are an expert of any kind, like, we are more than happy to do a corrections corner. We are more than happy to go back and edit, so that way it reflects, as honest and straightforward as possible. So it's really important for us to make sure that we do offer that line of communication and kind of throw that out there. So if you ever catch anything, let us know, but we do our best to be accurate the first time.
Yeah. Do you have any stories of like monsters and cryptids growing up here? Because you're from Corpus, correct?
It's the chupacabra. Like, it seems like that's the only one that I can think of, and my wife mentioned that to me. That really, I think, did you mention like Bigfoot? Right? Isn't that a Texas thing?
It sure is. Yeah.
There is a whole thing in Berkeley. So Berkeley up by Goliad. There's and actually my real job takes me up that direction, and there's like signs for Bigfoots. There used to be or Big Feet. There used to be a diner there, and they had a Bigfoot burger, and it was supposed to be like this statewide known Bigfoot burger stop, but they had some sightings up that way. But I was just talking to someone the other night, and they were telling me other stories about Berkeley, saying that there's like witches and stuff. And I was like, what's going on out in Berkeley? Like, this is a no-name spit of a town that's got like a county maintenance department. I mean, everybody's been very kind, nothing bad about Berkeley.
Right.
But it's just like, there's not a lot going on out there. Like, why are there so many rumors about this place?
It's like very... No, go ahead, please.
No, they have like a mansion or something.
They do, yeah.
In the middle of nowhere. I'm like, oh, it's kind of strange. Like, I can totally relate to that because I'm a truck driver and I go through there every now and then. And
I probably pass you on the road. I'm all up and down those roads all the time.
Yeah, I can relate. I can see that for sure, man. If from Berkeley, that's crazy. Yeah.
Well, whenever you're going through there next time, look on the side that has the county maintenance and the old rundown gas station that's not open anymore. And there's an old diner, and it's got a big Sasquatch out front, and it's got a big sign for a Bigfoot burger. It's closed now, but all the signage is still there. I'm kind of tempted to go take some pictures out that way.
Yeah, hell yeah,
for some promo material.
Yeah. So you guys are marketing your podcast on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, Anthony, go ahead. You do the spiel on the podcast, so you tell them where we're at.
Oh, well, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of your listening devices, your platforms, and we do have a Patreon too that has exclusive content where we do something called Detour, and it's the stuff that we just didn't have a chance to talk about on the show, and her and I just talk for about an hour about what's going on with the show and cool facts that we didn't get into, and then we go on like different tangents and stuff. It's an opportunity for others to get like a little behind the scenes of our show. But we mainly advertise on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah,
that's awesome. That Patreon thing is pretty cool, man.
It is.
Yeah, right. So with that, people pay like a monthly fee, not a fee, but like a donation.
It's like a donation. So it's pretty much like
subscription.
Okay.
When you think about like, okay, how much do you pay for Netflix every month? Patreon is for artists and creators and, any kind of content, really. There's gamers on there. You get perks when you sign up. So like I pay like $18 a month for Netflix. I don't know what the inflation turned out to be.
Right.
We have tiers as low as $3 a month. And for $3 a month, you get like some behind the scenes updates, but you also get like voting power. We've got some announcements that are coming out pretty soon.
Yep.
And
awesome.
If you're a member of the Patreon, your vote counts double. So if we post a poll and we're like, hey, do you guys want this or this kind of content? We're going to post that to Patreon too. And the people who vote on Patreon, we count theirs twice. So you kind of get like a little bit more influence on the show. We'll reach out, we'll ask our Patreons like different questions like, hey, would you rather hear this or that? And sometimes we leave it up to them. So it's definitely more of a personalized experience. And then we have tiers that range all the way up to $20 a month, where we actually have a few subscribers there, and they get merch options. They get discounts on any merch that we post in the future. They get blooper reels. They get the Detour episode where, we definitely started talking about dragons in one, and we ended up talking about Star Trek after that. So it can be anything.
and they get a personal written story up to 5,000 words written by me. And of any monster, any cryptid, any location, any subject, and I'll write you a story. And that's at the $20 tier, because I feel like I really, really want to get published, and hopefully when I do get published, those stories are worth money for the people. So you're like,
that's cool, man. Yeah,
I have an original story from AJ Diaz. Here's $100.
Wow,
man, that's cool, bro. Dude, that's awesome, man.
Whenever the people get to choose, because we've got like 3 stories in the works for those people.
Yeah,
those
we got 3.
We have
Awesome.
one of them that was requested was Bigfoot in a drag show. So now Anthony is forced to sit down and write a story about Bigfoot performing in a drag show, and
Interesting.
it cracks me up.
I love it. I love it too. I love it too. A little sneak peek. The character's name is Sassy Crotch.
I hadn't heard that yet, but
it's funny, man.
As the drag queen enthusiast over here, I'm obsessed. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So not everybody can just write 500 words, you know what I mean, and just think out of nothing. So how long have you been doing that for?
I've been writing off and on for the past like maybe 7 or 8 years. When I told myself that I really wanted to do this because I know I'm not getting any older, and I realized where I wanted to do something that perhaps if it did work, my kids can be like, oh yeah, that book that's in the library, that my dad wrote that.
Wow.
And ever since I was maybe like 12 or 13, I would pick up a notebook and just write stories. I've always wanted to be a writer, and I know it's a very hard process, and it's very, very difficult to get picked up by a publisher. But the creative process and just like expressing yourself through written word is one, therapeutic, and two, it could possibly help somebody else express themselves through written word as well. Yeah. And when I started writing the book and doing these contests online with Vogel, I can feel myself when I had like a crappy day or I was in my own head with something. I can write a character, and then I can express what the character is feeling, what I'm feeling, and then it became this therapeutic session for me personally. And writing 5,000 words seems like a lot, but honestly, 5,000 words is nothing. When you start getting in that zone, when words just start pumping out of your brain onto the paper or the screen, you can definitely just get 1,000 words in like an hour, and it feels fantastic.
Yeah, man. It's like a muscle. You train and train and train, and then man, that's awesome, dude. So you Priscilla C says hi on Facebook.
Hello, Priscilla.
Hey, Priscilla.
She's like always says hi. She's awesome.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. So you went the self-published route, or I think I was listening to the first episode and you mentioned doing self-publishing your recent book.
I'm still trying to get the traditional publishing route. Self-publishing is a lot of work too, especially when you don't have an editor, because editors are expensive. And when you're talking about, well, I want to self-publish this book on Amazon, and then you have to know the ins and outs of how to market your own book, and you have to create your promotions, and you have to do your own agent research, and you have to do all of these things in order to make your book successful. And I think if I don't find a publisher within the next like 2 to 3 years, I think I'm going to go through the self-publishing route on Amazon and just push it to make sure it gets some money. Because ultimately, yeah, I do love to write, but I do want to have a monetary value to it too. Like I want to have something that I can be like, yeah, this book is worth something, whether it's emotionally or monetary. I did it for me, but I also want to do for somebody else. And the ultimate goal is to give back to the community. Like if I make a book and it sells really well, I want to go back to my alma mater, and I want to help teach people how to do this process. I want to teach people how to write, how to express themselves. Like the ultimate goal is to give back to the community that helped us get, or me and my wife, to the point to we're at right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I'm stuck on the word monetary. Trying to figure out what that means when you're saying it. Like
money.
Okay,
Money.
like monetize. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, man. So you several streams of income, I guess. What do you guys do outside of the podcast?
I work for a first aid and safety program. So I assist with OSHA compliance, first aid trauma response, AEDs. That's why I'm driving around all the time. I service a lot of like oil field locations, a lot of like midstream facilities, everything from fast food to, my oil field locations. Whatever they need I do mobile sales that way. And I only wanted to make sure I said it first because when Anthony says his job, I want it known that I worked in safety before he did. For years, I worked in here before he worked for where he worked. So Anthony, go ahead. Tell everybody what you do.
I kind of don't want to say the agency I work for, but I will say that I do work for the federal government. I do work for an agency that deals with safety. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
And I may mention it to my customers when they don't want to be compliant. And I'm like,
Crazy.
Oh, cool. Do you know where my husband works? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm not saying you have to buy this from me, but I'm just saying that this place says that you need to have it.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So OSHA safety, man. I had a thought. That's awesome, man. I was thinking about Berkeley because I used to go to what is it, DCP midstream down there.
Yeah, I serve it. Well, I don't know if I can say who I work for or where I work, but I know what facility you're talking about.
Yeah,
I've seen
what
it before.
the heck? So how did you guys get into that? That's crazy. That's like
Well, my job actually kind of fell in my lap a little bit, and this is where I say like people are always telling me like you're going to be in sales, like you are set up for sales, like you should be in sales. I was teaching at Painting with a Twist because at the time we had a very young child. We have a 13-year-old and we have a 4-year-old, and so that was a job that I could do in the evenings. We didn't have to worry about daycare. Anthony worked his. It was a different federal agency at that point, but he worked, a very standard 9 to 5 kind of Monday through Friday job. I could stay home with our youngest, which, wasn't necessarily like, I didn't have that maternal dream of like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like that's not really my personality type. Tried it for a minute. Didn't work for us. That's great. But working in the evenings was doable. So I was working weekends, working evenings, and someone knew someone that worked at the company that I work for now. And they're like, hey, have you ever thought about going into sales? You know how to talk to people. And, didn't guarantee me the job, but at least guaranteed me to get face-to-face to talk to someone. And then, sure enough, went to the first interview, rocked it, did great. Went to the next one, rocked it, did great. Got a job offer before I got home from San Antonio. I had to drive up there for the interview. On the way home, I got a call and I was like, oh, this is like a career. This isn't like waiting tables again. This isn't, awesome. Doing this or that. And now, I got stuff going on and it's great. And it's been so awesome for our family. Like we actually just bought our first home.
Hey, awesome.
We've got big things in the works and now we've got our podcast. And so we're, side hustling, like weekends are no longer sleeping in all the time. Like now it's get up, like everything is content. Everything is content. And trying to figure out like, how to not be so old because I'm trying to figure out how to work Instagram. I was like,
I can relate, man. I can relate.
Know what I'm doing.
I'm just trying to climb up the corporate ladder, to make enough money to where Kaylee can not have to work anymore and do this full time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll take it.
But like I was in the Marines. I was a U.S. Marine from 2004 to 2009. After that, I went to school. I used my GI Bill to go to the University of Notre Dame and here in A&M Corpus Christi. I worked for a local business, and then I just wanted to make more money, and I went to the oil field, got laid off in the oil field. I became a teacher for about 6 months. I
forgot about that. You were a teacher.
Yeah, I dug ditches for when I was, trying to make ends meet. And then I got a I went to the unemployment office to see if anybody was hiring, and then I had my military background, my DD-14, my bachelor's degree, and then I got hired on to work on base as a forklift driver, and that's where I started my federal journey. And I bounced around agencies. I was from CCAD, DLA. I was with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I was with the National Park Service as a park ranger, and now I work for Department of Labor. And who knows what I'm going to do next? But just climbing that ladder is just, and I want to do it enough to where I can just say, okay, we have enough saved up. I'm going to quit my job and write full time. Let's do this.
What we need is one of them trust funds. If we could get one of those, if anybody's got any more trust funds to hand out.
But I tell you what, man, if Netflix or like Hulu gets a hold of my manuscript and be like, I want to make it a show. Here's $500,000. We're like, cool. Yeah. Job is quitting.
You were not quitting because you were already so close to retirement. So we're gonna have to.
I know.
About that.
I am. I'm so close to retirement too.
Yeah. No, dude. Man, wait for that retirement. Oof. Yeah, we got money going there every month. We got 15% every month, every paycheck. So damn, I can't wait. It's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. And then we have our prop. My wife and I, because I'm married and I have 2 kids, and property is almost paid off. Probably in a couple of years.
Congratulations!
Nice.
Nothing, yeah, heck yeah, man. It's nothing big. It's real. It's small. It's maintainable. But shoot, we can say like, hey, we own it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In 2.5 years, and no debt, no consumer debt. We paid off all our credit cards, no car notes. So the property is the only thing that's gone, and it's so freeing, to not have any consumer debt at all. So
nice.
Yeah, we got really, really lucky. We've been renting the home that we live in for a few years now, and our landlords were like, "Hey, by the way, we're not renewing your lease."
Oh,
like what? Like because we're really good. Like our rent is always on time. It's paid in full. Like we do have dogs, but they're not destructive. We don't, we didn't ever hit them up with problems. Like we fixed stuff ourselves. We didn't bother them. And at first we were like really shocked. Like, okay, well, thanks for giving us a few months heads up, but like, what the heck? Because our dogs are rescues and they're Dobermans. Like a lot of places won't let us live there with Dobermans, and like we're not getting rid of our dogs.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation with them. We're like, okay, cool. Did we do something? And they're like, no, we just don't want to rent anymore. Like we want to retire. Yep. We want to buy an RV and do the damn thing. And we're like, okay, cool. Can we buy the house? And so they gave us a deal. They discounted the house. They paid half our closing cost. We didn't have a down payment because Anthony, with his veteran background, got a VA loan.
Awesome.
And so for the cost it would have taken us realistically to move into a new home, we got to buy this one. And so I painted the living room black, and now the backyard's all decorated, and now it's ours and we get to do all the things, and we're really excited.
Yeah. We get to do what we want with the house.
Kidding,
so
man.
There's definitely a freeing, like when you're talking about like, oh yeah, it's freeing. Like I know we've got a lot of years to pay still, but I'm super excited to be on that same journey. And like maybe we'll have an interview in like 15 years time, and we'll be like, hey, yeah, we were talking about you paying off your house. Like we're right there with you now.
Because I never thought I would own a home ever, because I've moved around so much through my childhood. Yeah. I never thought I mean, why would I own a home? Like I'm so used to leaving someplace every 3, 4, 5 years.
Crazy.
Why have a spot? And then they're like, well, it clicked. We have kids. They enjoy the school. The school's great. I have an opportunity to have a piece of property that's mine,
right?
And my wife's. Like why not do it? So
thanks for throwing me in there at the end. Like, oh, and my wife. Women are allowed to own property now. I remember. I even have my own credit card. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then like you were mentioning, I think earlier about like legacy for your kids too, because I mean, after we're gone, we could have something to leave to our kids. If you know what I mean. It's just it's just thinking ahead, because there's my daughter in the back. You want to say hi, Mama? She keeps coming by. She wants to say hi. No.
What's her name? Or if
her name
you
is
want
Francesca.
Francesca. That's a pretty name.
You want to say hi? Come on. They're gonna say hi. Here's the headphones. Say hi.
Hi, Francesca. Hi. How are you? You're so pretty. I love your bangs. They're like real sassy, like just like that little bit right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's like, lady, I don't know you. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
Stranger danger. Yeah.
I wish our
Yes.
kids had stranger danger.
Yeah, she's cool, man. I love her a lot. Yeah, she comes in, she makes videos too. Like she sees me making videos, and she'll open up photo booth on the iMac, and she'll just, all right guys, we're gonna do this, and she's like doing like tutorials and stuff.
Isn't it so fascinating how already like instantaneously they know what to do with a camera? Like it's almost mind-boggling to what our children do with the camera. They already know to put it to their faces and talk as if they're doing an instructional video. And it's and like I'm thinking like because I'm 40, and I'm thinking when I was their age, I was eating dirt with outside playing football or skateboarding and like busting up my bones. They're like, and they already know how to work it. Like it's crazy. We don't use the word crazy. It's flabbergasting to think. It's flabbergasting to think that they already know what to do. And I'm like, I feel so old.
So I want to jump in before we get too far, because Anthony kind of like touched into like, we don't say crazy, because that was a kind of a pivotal point. And I don't know if you got a chance to check out our mental health episode. But,
I heard the first.
We've done a couple bonus episodes, and one of them we brought in a doctor of psychology from here at TAMUCC. So a friend of ours, Dr. Anthony Zocolillo, joined us. And we got to have a conversation really about our content. So like about monsters and cryptids and everything like that. But it was like, should we automatically discount when people say like, oh, I saw an alien, or, oh, I saw Bigfoot, or I saw this and that? Are they crazy? Like, is that, I'm trying not to say people are crazy as much, because I know that can be kind of like a polarizing or triggering word. Right. And so it was so cool to have this educated conversation about like, what is the difference between delusion and hallucination? What are different disorders that cause these things? And so that was a special episode we did for May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we got to have like this really cool experience with a very educated guest, and he's actually going to be coming back and joining us for a future episode in our next season. And so we've had some super awesome guests, and I don't know if you've met some of the other ones. So I know we had Scuba Steve, Lord Scuba Cabra, join us, and he's got the Somewhat Supernatural podcast. He's local as well. He's also a karaoke DJ, and I don't know how much information he wants me to give out about him. So if you decide to hit him up, go for it. We've kind of talked about having our friend Ben, who has the Recycled Corn podcast, who's also here local.
Crazy.
We were talking. I'm not sure how joking we are, but about joining him for his season finale coming up.
Wow.
And we've talked about having him on. I know for our Texas episode, I want to get as many local people in on our Texas episode, even if they don't have stories, just like voice contributions, so we can really drive in that local supporting local. Other podcasts join us for that one, even if it's in the encounter, and we just have like multiple people talking. So it's exciting to see like this community that we're really building down here. My sister lives in Colorado, so when she and I were doing things, it was like, okay, 7 p.m. your time or my time? Like, what are we doing? Like, and all of our resources were there. So we came across some folks down here, and we actually are now on the board for the Coastal Bend Creator Con, which is going to be all about learning how to produce content, make content, market content. And that's coming in 2023. We've got some announcements coming. So if even if you're interested in learning like more about that, hi, Ben. Ben's in the chat.
Nice.
So if you're interested in like learning how to do content and things like that, I would definitely go check out. We've got our Facebook page and our Instagram. So it's Coastal Bend Creator Con, the CBCC. And I'm dyslexic, so I'm really glad I got that out all in one go. So we've got like the local influencers. I think they were the number 3 podcast this year and the best of the best.
Yeah.
We placed top 5. We didn't place top 3, but we did make top 5, so it was very exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many podcasts that I never even heard of.
Yeah.
We had Abel. I think it's Abel Ozuna. He was like the second or third guest on, and he told us
the
about
local influencers.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. That Creator Con that he started. I was like, damn, it's pretty cool. You know, for us to learn stuff and create stuff.
We're really excited. We just had a meeting.
It's definitely one of a kind. I haven't heard anything about people bringing creators in to teach how to do this stuff, because let's all face it. This is the future of entertainment right here. This is it. Like, whether it's going to be VR or it's going to be people doing this over the phone, you know, just having conversations. This is how entertainment's going to be, because I personally listen to a bunch of actual play podcasts about Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. I'm a huge nerd. I'm a huge nerd, and I and I listen to these things religiously. Like, I am fixated on my headphones, listening to how they interact and how they produce a scene together, and this is like the future of modern entertainment. And what we're going to do is we're going to showcase how we do our stuff, how other people do their stuff, and hopefully people will expand their brand. They'll expand their product and their podcast, and take it to where they want to go. And this is fantastic, and I'm super honored to be on the board also. And I just kind of wish that I knew how to do TikTok videos, because I would do that too, but I'm afraid I'll just sound stupid.
Man, creating content is hard.
It's hard. It's super hard.
And maybe it's because we're old, and like I've definitely made some pretty open Facebook pages or posts about like, guys, I have the old. I need a youth to come teach me how to do some things. If you are a youth and you are interested in tutoring an elder millennial, please hit me up. I have some questions,
because there's a science to it. There is a science.
The algorithm, the total performance.
Yeah, how the camera's positioned, what angle it is, the lighting, what you're doing, how you say it. Do you pause? Do you do 1 minute video, 3 minute videos,
15-second highlight story?
Dude, it is mind-boggling to think the science behind some of the top tier creators, and how they do stuff, and then it's very hard to replicate. Very, very hard to replicate. And but if you got it, you're golden, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
That's where research skills come in, because like I've definitely been watching, like, I'm not even ashamed, I'm watching like YouTube tutorials, and some of them I'm like, please do not talk down to me. I'm not stupid. I can like, I don't know why we ever gave up MySpace in the beginning, because they were teaching us how to code and do all sorts of things. And we ditched them for Facebook. And now I'm like an elder millennial that doesn't know how to do anything. I'm like, guys, please.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Slow it down.
I do like a little bit of software development. I got into it a little bit. And having my understanding of that and like web development stuff helped me a little bit with content creation, because like you say, like algorithm, like they have it set a certain way, so you have to make TikTok videos that are catchy, you know what I mean? And how do you keep person's attention? And if you keep that person's attention for like 10 seconds, then they're gonna keep promoting your video because it's watchable, you know what I mean? So you have to learn how to make content according to what the algorithm wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that way you
catch those trends as they're coming up, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you have those outliers. You have people like Joe Rogan who can just sit down for 3 hours and talk to somebody, and then it's a phenomenal just back and forth conversation. But you have to understand that it's a conversational. He's a conversationalist talking about like a topic, and some of his content is great. Well, it's off the wall,
flabbergasting,
ridiculous. Yeah. But there are some things that he talks to, like top known scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he talks physics. He talks space travel and the existence of universes and alien life form and SpaceX and the environment, things like that. And it's that's an outlier. He can do that, but
yeah.
I know, like we are not that level yet, but we want to be, but
Yeah.
man, it's
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I did the podcast in the format that I did it in, so that it's like conversation, like you're saying. I totally agree that this is the form of entertainment now. Humans interacting with other humans, just it being live is important. It's important for people to watch and see. And like you said, Joe Rogan has 3 hours. His episodes are like 3 hours long, and just somebody having conversation with somebody who's more knowledgeable than them about whatever they're talking about. And it's like, that's why I chose that to begin with for the format of the podcast that I do.
Yeah.
Is that,
I've got some feelings on Joe Rogan, but I don't know if they're going to be welcome. So I'll just pass on the Joe Rogan discussion. I think he's a little out there. But no, I see Ben is popping in. So this is Ben De Leon is the one that I was saying has the Recycled Corn podcast.
Listen to the Recycled Corn podcast. It is funny. It's funny. It's good.
He 100% called me out for not inviting him to my birthday party, even though I'd never met the man. And we're actually meeting for the first time a little bit later today. And I was listening to it, and he had our friend Scuba on, who he refers to as his assistant. And Scuba strongly says he is not his assistant. He is his co-host, which is the whole thing that they do. But Ben says in the comments here, he's like, I make content that really only makes me laugh. So I could probably use some education too. And I will say that Ben makes me laugh as well. We crack up at the little quips he puts out there. But yeah, I definitely I tuned into an episode, and I was like, oh, cool, like Scuba's here and like listening. And then Scuba's talking about what he did over the weekend. He's like, yeah, so I went to my friend Kaylee's birthday party. They had a Halloween theme because I did halfway to Halloween. My birthday is late April. And he's like, well, I didn't get an invite. And then like sad, horrible music, or it's like the recorded edition of My Heart Will Go On starts playing. And I'm like, how am I in this episode? And then I sent it to Anthony. I was like, listen, they talk about us in our podcast at this marker. And then I was done for work for the day. So I turn my car off, go back out the next day, start it up, and the episode starts playing again. 4 minutes in, they talk about it again. I'm like, I ended my day with it and the sad recorder Titanic song, and that's how I'm starting my day again today. And so like I'm just like belly laughing, like ugly laughing on SPID, just like in my big vehicle, like like I picture that gif with like it's like a bearded dragon that's got like all the double chins, like that's how I was laughing.
That's great, man. It's awesome to have you guys on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah. It's been a sheer pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else? Anything you guys want to share?
We have some big announcements coming. So for people who are familiar with our podcast, we've got some new format coming out. We're really excited for. The announcement is going to be coming very, very shortly.
Yep.
And we also have a special. Anthony, should we talk about our special that's coming up in October?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So October, we're going to take a little bit of a deviation from our normal content, where it's going to be, every state has a cryptid, and we're going through that. We have a lot of really interesting, really cool people at our fingertips, and it would be a shame to not use them.
Yes.
So for the month of October, we're really going to be amping up the more accessible monster stories. And we have a few people that are on the roster for who are having join us, but we're going to do like monsters in different formats. So we've got some folks that do a horror movie podcast.
Yep.
They're talking about joining us. We're going to talk about monsters in movies. Awesome. We've got a friend of ours who is an awesome artist, and he's going to come and talk to us about monster and art. And then I have another guest that I'm going to kind of talk to her about it. I just interviewed her for the other podcast I work on. And it's actually Bram Stoker's granddaughter. So the man who wrote Dracula, I got to interview her recently. Her name's Shanna Stoker.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see if she's interested in coming and joining us for Monsters in Literature and kind of round out that that content. So we're really excited. We've got big stuff coming up. We've got merch coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, we just need to find somebody who knows about monsters and music, and it'll complete the whole entire circle.
Oh, that would be sweet. Yeah.
So if you're a monster musician, I have one of the Guar members on my Facebook. I still think we should hit them up and see
if
that would be a thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But shameless plug time. You can find us on Facebook, 50 States of Terror. You can find us on Instagram, 50 States of Terror. You can find us on Twitter at 50 States Terror without the of because of the character limitations. You can find my writing on Vocal / Anthony Diaz. You can find all of our content on Patreon too if you want to be a subscriber. You get all the bonus content. You get the behind the scenes. You get when we do get sponsors, hopefully we get sponsors, you'll get that ad free through our Patreon.
Oh, they're coming. We're super close.
We're super close. We're super close. So yeah, we're 50 States of Terror. And thank you all for listening who have been on this ride of ours. We truly appreciate everything.
Yes, awesome. I'll leave links in the description as well where you can find these
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, guys. If nothing else, we appreciate y'all being on. We see y'all later.
Yeah, man. Later.
Bye.
Bye.